Welcome to Unpacked, a COVID-19 inspired video interview series where I get the stories behind my favourite new songs. For this episode, I spoke to Michael McCartney about his single Taxi. Taxi is the second single from a huge release plan that Michael has in store for us over the next 12 months. We talk about how the song was written over a period of 3 years, all the different collaborations that he had along the way. He describes vintage pop, which is the essence of his sound. He has a little strum at the end of the interview, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome, Michael.
Zach, how you doing?
Good, thank you. I've got you in a very amazing looking room today. Where are you and what are you up to?
I'm in sunny Burleigh Heads. This is my home. This is my lounge room. This
Beautiful.
is, welcome to Burleigh.
Totally. You've got, I think you've picked up the vibe because I'm sitting in my lounge room too, and we're nice and relaxed in our isolation hubs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much so. Did you consider calling the project Unzacked?
Yeah, Unzacked. Then I wouldn't be able to be in it. So yeah, I don't know about that one. We could just talk. It'd just be a bunch of musos talking about me. That might be a bit funny.
Well, I'll host that podcast.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be fun. Look, man. Let's just start off by, I think the best person to talk about your background would be yourself. I've described you as being someone who has been behind the scenes and now stepped into the spotlight. Can you explain what you've been doing for the last 20 years in music?
Yeah, fully. Well, I started playing drums from when I was a kid. I grew up kind of in a church playing weekly. And I haven't stopped, really. I haven't stopped since I was young. It's been there the whole time. But I moved to the Gold Coast following some friends who are musicians, and we set up a little studio near Griffith Uni, which is when you and I would have met.
Yeah, very long time ago.
I didn't get into the course. I wasn't good enough to get into the course. But I went and worked and saved some money, and I set up a little studio myself. And so I had all the poor uni students hanging at my studio.
I remember that.
And I learned so much about audio engineering, and I got to know some people from the scene.
Yep.
By kind of accidentally having this, this space that was a melting pot for most of the musicians that have either introduced me to artists I've worked with or have kind of become my little pocket of the Australian music scene. So in that time, I played for lots of Gold Coast artists who have done lots of stuff on the Gold Coast. And then I started doing some more high profile stuff.
Yep.
And the last few years, I've been really just sitting in the corner of the corporate scene in South East Queensland and doing a lot of international work as well as a drummer. But I'm working out of Love Street Studios on the Gold Coast, and I've been recording a bunch of work for maybe the last 4 years. And I've been wrestling to how to actually put it out and what piece of music or what body of work represented the broader identity that I feel like I've kind of created for myself as a songwriter.
Yep.
Beyond me just as a drummer.
Yeah.
And over that time, I've worked with so many great singers and songwriters really closely as a drummer. And I've learned a lot, obviously, from being a songwriter myself, but being able to witness the highs, the lows, the entertainment, the depths of why you write. So I've been really privileged to kind of work alongside and behind a lot of really, really great musicians. So for me to put this music out now, it was really about me finding a format to do it. I probably would have released a couple of years ago, but I just think this project meant that I could showcase, a variety of different work that I'm doing. So there's 4 EPs, there's 8 singles, and it's over 12 months. So basically every month there'll be either a release of either a single or EP.
Yep.
And they're broken up into 4 EPs.
Yep.
And loosely there's a genre to each one.
Yep.
So
it's a lot to digest. So let's take one step back quickly, because for the first time, a lot of people are meeting you. So you were a drummer who kind of didn't get into the uni on the Gold Coast, but ended up being the melting pot for all the great musicians. I was part of that melting pot. I came along to your amazing pad there and partied and played music. And then you kind of got into studio session recording and playing in bands. Is that correct? Rather than
more live stuff. So the first band I played in where it was like, where it feels like a team sport
Yeah,
where there's
okay.
was a band called Brothers, and there was a bunch of guys from my hometown.
Yeah.
Who have gone on to one of the guys is in San May, who I'm still a part of.
Yeah.
And the other two guys are in a band called Red Spencer down in
Yep.
Melbourne.
Yep.
And so that was the first time that I really got out and did a bunch of live playing.
Yep.
And I was more than being a session drummer for other people in those days. I was just slowly refining my skills. I worked on scoring films. I worked on, but I was still trying to make my own music opposed to, recording for other artists.
And then you had a bit of a bout recently in the corporate scene, which was, kind of high-end gigs and stuff like that. And all the while you've been perfecting your production, which now leads to this insane project that you've come out with. It just looks so amazing. The first single was Too Long, and now you've just released Taxi, which is the lead single from the first EP. So let's jump into it. Like, there's a lot of background stuff. I mean, if the watchers want to come and anyone wants to check out the whole story, they can visit your webpage. But are you ready to unpack Taxi?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So, all things considered, you've kind of worked in every single orifice of music, from production to drumming to everything. How does someone like that write a song? Like, where does it start?
Great question. It's interesting. I would say this song I actually wrote for another singer. So I actually had a different singer in mind. It wasn't until this song was finished and the singer who I'd written for, we couldn't make it work. He couldn't come to the studio. So I was like, I need to get this done. I need to close the book on this piece of music. Yeah. So I just went and recorded it. And then I was like, I can't like how this feels. Like, it was one of those pieces of music, because it was written for someone else.
Yeah.
It pulled me forward as a singer. It was something that I was imagining somebody else who had better capability than I did as a singer.
Yep.
And so therefore I was uninhibited as I was writing. So it's it's like all this falsetto stuff, and there's a lot of soul kind of in the song, which was not something I would have written for myself at the time. So I wrote it as a full song before I started recording it. But as far as the way I was going to start dressing the song up, I talk about songs as being like, the song itself needs to be really strong. The core, the identity, the melodies, the lyrics, the structure, the actual essence of what the song is, before you start putting clothes on it or start taking a photograph of it. I think about the production as being like, this is it's like, what is an elephant? Like, it's like, depending on which part of it you're looking at, it's kind of like songs are like a photograph. Like, as you record it, you're capturing one performance of it. And so what's the best photograph of the song you could possibly take? So before I started doing that, I was really writing for this other singer. And but the actual chords were the thing that I had laying around for a couple of months, and it stays basically the same the whole way. There's one chord progression the whole way through the song, So does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. I love how you use analogies. We've had a couple of chats recently, and you've come out with some beauties. I think you really see music, and I think it's probably because of how many different parts of the industry and like the production you've been in. You can take a few steps back, more so than other artists, and really see things for what they are as a product, and a finished kind of product. And product's a bad word to use for music, but yeah, kind of.
I get it. Yeah, and to dig deeper into the question you asked, how I wrote the song, because I was writing for someone else, I didn't have this like personal experience I was drawing on. I didn't have this like untangling to do, or I literally just pictured the last few minutes, because I was writing for someone else. It was really simple. The last few minutes on a night out.
Yeah.
So on a night out, just before the ugly lights come on, just before that moment, people are like, people start pairing off. And the character in Taxi is in that moment.
Yeah.
Like being like, is tonight the night? That's what I was trying to tap into as I was writing. So as you listen back through the lyrics of it, I think it makes more sense when you know that that's the moment that I'm like trying to mine for emotions and for language and for the feeling, So that's
It comes across like that. I think you do a really good job in kind of making the lyrics and the musical parts all fit one mood. I think it does a really good job on that. The next part that I wanted to talk about, and I think we've already touched on it, is this idea of or this genre that you've been talking about in your press release and stuff of vintage pop. Explain to us what you think that is and how that relates to Taxi and your style.
Awesome. Vintage pop for me, it's and one of the reasons why I've kind of built into my aesthetic all these instruments. You know, it's like one of the things that is it's like I fall in love with that era of musical instrument. They're aesthetically beautiful to me. I just think they're and it also for me represents some of the best music or the music I'm most inspired by.
Yeah.
It's also a genre and an era in time that seems to have lasted really well. It seems to have aged and held its own. And I was someone who grew up with like listening to nu metal, and it had like a 5-year bubble. And when the bubble burst, you're like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah. They even had their own like reverbs and stuff. Like, it's like.
So it was like a kind of vintage pop for me was this stable anchor that I could pivot back to that didn't need to be time specific and cool. It seemed to be able to be weathered. And so musically, I anchored my identity as a songwriter and as an arranger and as an engineer in that era of analog sounds and those kinds of ideas.
What time era are we talking here, do you think, in terms of
67 to 73? You know, like that kind of. It seems to be this melting pot of there's more music was made in that time that is unencumbered. It's like not. It explores, but it has all these sensibilities, you know.
And that was the time. Was that around like the Wrecking Crew? There was like all those session artists that were just smashing it as well. Like it was not, and you know, it might have been a bit post Motown, but like just not only with
Muscle Shoals and like there's just like every corner of the world there was a scene that was alive, electric, and because the music business was supported, there was an appetite for it. There was a cultural revolution. There was all these things happening. And in a lot of ways, it was like a renaissance of music that was happening in that little gap in time. And I don't know whether it's because of the quality of the music that it's held, but I also think there's this real beautiful element of the design of instruments and the design of outfits and the design of all these things that I want to anchor myself to that, because it seems like even though we're so far away from it, it seems like it will hold the test of time, and I won't be tricked again like I was by nu metal, you know.
Well, I get you. I doubt vintage pop will be the new metal, but let's have a listen to a part of the song that I really like, and then we'll have a bit of a chat about it. Okay, so that's the start of the song. And I'd like to get your take on the sound between the rhythm section, the drum and the bass. I know it was started and made popular, you know, way before even vintage pop era, but I feel like the modernization of it kind of started around the Arctic Monkeys' AM album. But was kind of maybe channeling some earlier sounds. Every time I hear that, just that tight rhythm section with that new age production, it reminds me of the AM album. Does that resonate with you, or where does that draw the inspiration from?
I mean, I think that's like some really masterful music that the Arctic Monkeys made. You know, like I think it's just it's really, 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 really special. For me, this song, funnily enough, two things. One song that both come from the corporate world, weirdly enough. I was writing this song when I had to play a whole bunch of Daft Punk music.
Okay.
Right? So I was having to play a whole bunch of stuff at the corporate world, where as a drummer, I love to feel in control of the energy in the room. And you realize those grooves, one of the reasons why those songs are so successful is like just how that the groove is just so contagious. And so playing it night after night, playing it all the time, so that groove is just like, I was playing that all the time. And when I recorded this song, I only recorded on the floor tom, and so it was like, there was no hi-hats. It was just this like, it was like a club kind of like heavy groove. But then the one thing that is in the song, the other thing to tie to the vintage pop, there's this the actual pattern is I told us the
Yeah. It's got the skip in it, doesn't it?
That is actually from an ABBA song. There's a
Okay.
you can dance, you can
Oh
dance
yeah.
in the time of your life. That's that same drum fill. And it was from playing those two songs in the corporate sets that I didn't mind playing them. I learned so much from how the crowd, and these are big audiences that we're playing to in this setting, that those things just kind of seeped into the music I was writing that I wasn't afraid of or wasn't ashamed of. I didn't need to, so that's how those kind of those things came in.
Yeah, I can really feel that. That's great to hear, and I think it's the simplicity, but it's not actually that simple. You know, if you time the right boom ta, you know, at that moment when the right thing happens with the rest of the song, can be more effective than using a chord that no one's ever heard of before. And you know, like it's pop. Yeah, it's pop. That's what pop is. It's well timed simplicity. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I like that. That's really great.
Yeah.
And if you think I have well-timed simplicity, I'll take that. And I'll run with it. I'm not even like use that as a quote. Well-timed simplicity.
Yeah, you can quote it. Maybe this isn't media outlet. I'm not sure yet.
That's great.
Cool, man. Well, I'm going to play another bit. Actually, I'll play it and then we'll have a chat about it. It's like the last bit.
She's a taxi with the light on.
Okay, so two parts that I want to talk about there. Firstly, what is that sound, man? What is that awesome synth keys? What is it? Is it? Did you build it? Is it from the vintage? You know.
It's funny. So Ian Perez is someone that I met at that era that you and I spoke about earlier. And he, you know, has had a crazy career as a musician, and he's pulled me along in a bunch of ways with that as well. And so he spent a long time playing in Wolfmother. I did some shows with him in that capacity. We played with Ash Grunwald together. But you know, one of my best mates, and every time I'm in the studio, I'm always like longing for the team spirit. Who are the people who understand me? Who are the people that you don't need to say everything or explain everything in order to feel understood. So Ian's been amazing for that. And before we did Taxi, we were using a lot of that old string synth machine.
Yep.
So this vintage, but this is a new keyboard. It's called a System 8. It's a Roland keyboard. It looks like a spaceship. And so
I think I saw him post that when he purchased it or something. He's like, "This is the best."
Yeah. I think it made it to his Xavier Rudd touring rig. I think it's like he has that green spaceship looking thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a modern keyboard, but you know, it's got a lot of vintage synthesizers in it. And I think for this song, it was the first time we really lent into like, what are these soundscapes? But they were soundscapes. It wasn't until I worked with Con, who mixed it, and he's just like, these are going front and center. And wow. And so. So it was cool. This Taxi is really important. I think it's really important to point out that I didn't know where I was going with this song. I didn't have a finished result.
Yep.
I had all these ingredients, and then lent on people and worked with people.
Yep.
And it became the product it was, not because of my vision. The songs that I write, I feel really confident about the vision and that I'm pushing myself. But this song was. So Hemi Timmy, he played bass on this song.
I didn't know that.
So that was the first thing that was recorded.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had this little this iPad drum machine.
Yep.
We laid this group down. Hemi came in, and I was like, "Here's the lines, like here's the parts." But then all the extra playing in that song is all him and his beautiful playing.
Yeah. And that bass really goes wild, doesn't it?
And the song was built from there. Then I did. So that was the first thing that we did was the bass playing, and it would never have felt as real without that there. So it's like there's all these elements that kind of came together that wasn't about me having vision. It was about not knowing where we're going and these collaborators kind of guiding this process.
Wow! And then to have
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. I'll go back to that sample that I just played then, and I just want to point out. And I know that it definitely would have been intentional how the chorus drops and then everything drops out. You know, it was very clever. I love the way that works, and I'm sure there's a song you were channeling for that. Instead of everything coming in, everything drops out right on the one of the chorus.
Yeah.
What? That's really cool.
Yeah.
And that's where that synth comes in too, and it just really highlights it. Was that so? You were talking about Konstantin Kirsting, who's worked with all sorts of Tones and I. It was his biggest recent hit, and was that something that he would work on in the studio, bringing that forward and dropping parts out and stuff, or is it something you had in mind from the start?
Oh no. I mean, the arrangement was there.
Yeah. Okay.
He didn't make any creative decisions on the arrangement. It's sonic and about what's being highlighted. He did a really great job. It transformed the song in a really great way. He did an exceptional job.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, this Taxi is one of those songs that a lot of the songs I'm playing all the instruments, you know, and I'm all the way up to saying even the two songs being mixed today by different people, and I'm controlling. I'm saying this is how I want it to be. Yeah, Taxi was not like this. Taxi was one where I didn't know what I wanted, and I think it was one of the biggest breakthroughs for me as an artist making this song. Because this song is now, would you believe it? Don't tell anyone this, Zach. This song is actually 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
This song is 3 years old. I've been singing this song for 3 years. Because I've been waiting for all the other things. So it was a really important foundation for the work that's come since then to move into new territory, and it was because of being able to have really strong collaborators in Ian, in Com, and there's other people. George Carpenter was a part of this process. Mitch Fingers was a part of the song. As far as just being there in the sessions and hanging out, this song took me 15 sessions or something. It was a huge piece of work.
Who's gonna be in your band when you play live? Because it's just gonna be all my mates.
I've got a bit of a dream team in mind.
Yeah.
When things turn back to normal. Yeah.
So cool. We'll see. I'll wait with bated breath for sure. But yeah, awesome. Well, we're kind of running out of time. I knew this would happen. We got so much to chat about. Let's play this bit. The saxophone.
Yes.
Yeah, so who's that? Who's playing the sax?
His name's Jesse Green.
Yeah.
He's a dude that I've traveled the world with doing the corporate work. You know, we've been to too many countries. It's wonderful. He's a Gold Coast guy. He's a young guy. And I call him the Bleeding Gums Murphy of our scene. He's just like, he's got that like fire in his belly, and he plays with his life. He plays for his life, like actually.
Okay.
And, there's so many talented players, but no one I know plays with this amount of this need, you know. And so when we did this session, Ian was there. So we'd done the keys, and Jesse came in, and it was just like he's just warming up and just did these passes in this song. I didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't know we were going to have parts and lines. I didn't know if we were going to have what it was going to be. And so he just did 3 passes on the song, and Ian and I were like blown away.
Wow.
So that's why we've got the instrumental as well, because I was like, there's all these parts that Jesse played that I was like, I can't not have the world hear just this moment that was captured. The fact that we didn't design it. It's not this like masterfully written out piece. It was just, it's purely, you can hear it for the first time and playing. And so the instrumental, there's like little ghostly parts throughout the song with the sax, and I like that it kind of both ties to the theme of the lyrics of the song, this like late night kind of sleazy kind of moment, but also musically, it was what I was doing at the time. I was playing all you know, in the big format 8-piece band, and so I love the brass. I didn't know we were going to have brass lines. So the instrumental is me just putting together all these little bits and pieces, the outtakes. So and that last little passage of the song, it's like this dreamscape, you know. It's just it's like it wants to go somewhere. I didn't actually play out the whole thing, but we can, obviously anyone can listen to it in their own time, and I recommend it highly. It's like it goes to finish, and then it doesn't, and then it goes it's scat. It's just going wherever it's taking you on a journey. The sax solo, it's so cool, and to
to have that as the outro, it's just, I love it. You know, it's not pop at all. So,
yeah, right. That's cool. And it's funny. I didn't. Again, it wasn't a deliberate thing. This song unfolded in front of me. You know, it was like, who are the people around me that I am connected to musically and as people, and come be a part of this. Like, what do you think is going to work here? You know. And I think it was partly because I didn't write the song for me that I didn't know. I didn't have the answers. I didn't spend too much time thinking. And so for me, it's not even an outro. It's just like how the song was structured, and then that's just what he did. And you're like, well, that can't change. You know, you're like, that's going to be there. That's beautiful. Like,
I respect that about your songwriting, because I think it's also because you've been around so long and seen how many, you know, mistakes people can make in production, and being a producer yourself, I think the beauty of a great song comes with spontaneity and the fact that you can then, actually take control where you want to, but also let things happen organically. And those kind of things are the ones that you usually keep at the end of the day, the outtake.
Yeah, I had a really important conversation with somebody that I actually don't remember their name, and they really highlighted this to me to say that, like, you can't know what the product is before you've made it. You have to make it before you know what it is. Okay. And it guided this song. There's a really, I don't remember the person's name, but I remember where
Gandhi.
I was.
It was Gandhi.
It was Gandhi. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when we met, you know, down Burley. Yeah. The pop's closed and, you know, we just have this chat about. That's
amazing. Yeah, that really resonates with me too. Man, I can't wait I love it. Even if we're locked down, as all I know is that you're going to keep releasing music, and it's going to keep me entertained. Because what's next? So Taxi's just come out, the EP, and then we kind of went over it briefly. But give us a bit of a brief scape of what's to come for the next 12 months.
So there's 4 EPs in total. Basically, every month there will be either a single or the rest of an EP. So every EP has 2 singles. So there's 8 singles in total, and I'm really enjoying, you know, having worked on the brand that it's kind of being rolled out at the same time, which is a lot of the really visually heavy, and that's Jack Sermon photography, Wayne Palmer on designs for that. It's been a team effort, you know, but essentially they're kind of grouped into modern rhythm and blues, which is the first one. A bit more rock and roll, a bit more pop, a bit more piano ballady, acoustic, vintage, you know, pop songwriting.
And they've all got their own brands.
They've all got their own brands. So it's a cycling between the pink, black, and white and the vintage instruments. But they're loosely kind of tied together. But hopefully there's a thread that feeds through it, and that is what my voice my fingerprint as an artist is.
Oh man, it's so exciting! Congrats on pushing ahead with it too in these crazy times. I mean, get it out there. Why not? I reckon. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, we're almost out of time, so I might have to get you in for part 2 or something.
Yeah. Do you want me to play the riff as an outro?
Let's do it, man. Let's do the riff. Yeah, you got to bust out the
credits. Just play the tune as a little outro.
Yeah, it's not just for looks.
No. There you go.
Thank you very much, mate. Great chatting to you. Thank you for watching Unpacked. See you next time.